I keep reading all these reports about how Biden is taking a victory lap in signing this bill, potentially as early as today. Is this a victory for America?
No, and look, what people are calling a victory lap, he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, that probably wasn't nice of me to say.
No, I get
anyway.
it, but that perception is out there. And no, I'll stop. I just want to jump in and say something. They are the ones shaping this perception because we're 50 days into this administration and he hasn't taken questions yet. And fair or unfair, if you're going to govern in your late hundreds, if they don't let you face live ammo, the perception is going to develop, fair or unfair. So I agree with you. You're well within your rights, Andy Biggs. Don't clean it up on this show. You've got grown-up shows to do.
Oh,
continue. Come on.
No, look, so back to your question. This is not a victory for the United States of America. Mm-hmm. First of all, you just added $2 trillion of national debt. Mm-hmm. Our structural deficit's now $2 trillion worse. Nothing we will do from last December forward will we pay for this year. Mm-hmm. Everything's borrowed. And that means bad news in the future. It also means that you're going to see some accelerated inflationary pressure. So think of it this way: since the Biden disaster went to the Oval Office, 50 cents a gallon has been the average increase nationwide at the pump for gas.
That is nuts.
That you got to know that. You got to know that the only people that are cheering this are blue state governors and legislatures because they're getting absolved. Here's the way to think of it. All this massive money that's going out to the states to bail them out, it's going to states that have the highest unemployment rate.
Yep.
Now, why do they have the highest unemployment rate? Because they're the ones that took the most draconian lockdown measures during the COVID. So they drove the rationale to get more federal funding. And people like to think, it's government money, it's federal funding. You should never forget federal funding is your dollars.
Yes.
It's our tax dollars.
And it drives me crazy because there are states like California that have a surplus somehow, but are still going to get back some money from what I was reading, which drives me, it's the point is this is something that we're going to be paying for forever. And unfortunately, it doesn't prioritize public health. 91% of this money, from what we're reading, does not go to public health. Maybe you can explain that to me. Does a $135 million endowment for the arts fight the virus? Is there a type of painting that will make it go down quicker?
Jimmy, it's a very smart virus. So money to the arts, money to the humanities, money for museums and libraries, money going overseas. My favorite, though, my personal favorite is if you're concerned about Fluffy and Fido, they're putting $400 million to see if COVID impacts any particular type of animal more than another. Jeez. I mean, think about that. How bizarre is that?
Well, did you see the presidential dogs got thrown out of the White House this week, by the way?
Exactly. They were fighting to see who was going to get the vaccine. It's you. It's me. It's you.
Well, I was saying now the only person walking around sniffing people is Biden. Now that the dogs are gone. So there you go. See, I can always beat you. I can always beat you in the race to the bottom on this show. Don't forget, Andy Biggs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for you, it's a step off the gutter is merely a small step for mankind. That's beautiful.
Good for you. So I'm looking at all the pork in this bill. I was going to ask, could you have not scared up an endowment for the Fox Across America Fund? They blew so much stupid money. Couldn't we have gotten a couple of bucks out of this?
Well, you would think that almost everybody in the world is getting something from this bill. I feel guilt. No, I don't. No, I don't feel guilt that I didn't get you anything, Jimmy. What can I say?
Biggs. I thought we had something. If you're just joining us, Representative Andy Biggs is here from Arizona's Fighting 5th Congressional District. I keep reading all these gushing reports also about how Biden, he's been so hard at work. He hasn't played golf once since he got into office. But unfortunately, I know. And you know what I was going to say to that too?
I'm filtering, Jimmy. I am filtering so much right now.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know. Well, I was just going to say they keep gushing about how he's not playing golf, but unfortunately his border policy is the U.S. Open. You know, it's not good, Biggs.
Oh,
there you go for you. See, but I mean it. Like, what the hell is going on? Because if we've got a surge increase, because we're getting into now what is, I guess, drive time. We had Mark Morgan on last week. He's a former chief of Border Patrol, and he said the surge is only going to increase in the next 3 months because this is kind of the season. They don't want to call it a crisis, but this is, whatever you call it, this is very much something they created, no?
Oh, it's all on them. Mm-hmm. They campaigned on amnesty. They campaigned on open borders. They campaigned on refugee vetting reductions. They campaigned on asylum protocols being eased. We're back in the catch and release. And so, Mark, he's right, Jimmy, because the high point of the seasons are always on the southern border in the spring and the fall. Why is that? Because that's pleasant weather. You can go, but in the summertime it's going to be hot, and you will still get thousands upon thousands coming across. We are going to see, I know February they said 100,000. I'm predicting over 145,000 for March.
Wow.
Because we're up to 5,000 apprehensions a day. And never forget that you're going anywhere from 25% to 100%. Some people say 150% of people that are being apprehended are actually sneaking across the border. They're doing this thing, Jimmy. It's fantastic. These cartels are so incredibly disciplined and organized. What they do is they mass people and they flood the zone. So they'll send 50 people to a place that they know has 6 Border Patrol agents. The Border Patrol agents are now spending all their time trying to process these people. In the meantime, they're going to send these high-risk people across the border, the illegal border crossers, in a place that is now vacated. They're sending the drugs across there. And so drug trafficking is way up. And it's inhumane because it's all, this human trafficking. It's unbelievable, Jimmy, what they do to these people. It's like 1 in 6 men is sexually assaulted coming across, and 1 in 2 females is sexually assaulted coming across.
No, it's horrific. And I feel like the God's honest truth is, and Mark Morgan was saying this, that, a lot of Trump's policies, which were working, even the wall, which had cut down border crossings by 80%, these policies could have stayed in place if the media was honest about them. Because one of the reasons Biden had so much political pressure to rescind things like the wall is because it was characterized in the press, and associated with things like kids in cages, which we know not to be true because those very same facilities remain open now, and I believe they're now called a migrant resort and day spa, correct?
It's something like that. Yeah. They tell me it's like a rapid transition center. But you know what? Either way you look at it, it's filled up to capacity. And they said, oh, we're going to open it up, but we'll keep it at half capacity because of COVID. Well, you going in there and they're filled to the gills. And I've been to these places. It's inhumane. Yeah. But here's the bizarre thing about this, Jimmy. It's always about incentives. You and I and every person responds to incentives. We all do. And from coming across the border, they're responding to the incentive of promise of amnesty, promise of asylum, and guess what? You're going to be released into the country. They're going to give you a return notice. Come back here in 2.5 years, and those people never come back. Why would they come back? If they're coming back, those are the people you don't want in this country anyway. They're not bright. So nobody comes back 2.5 years. 2.5 years later. They don't want to come back. And so we have 1 million people who have removal order in their pocket that we have no idea where they are.
Wow, that's insane.
What's that about? It's incompetence. It's incompetence.
And that is what it seems to be. It seems like they don't understand the crisis they've created, or whatever they want to call it. There's been a lot of semantic gymnastics to not call this a crisis, but the point remains, I don't think they understand the problem. And that's the takeaway I get from talking to people who do. Let me ask you this, though, because one of the main accusations against the Democrats is that they're trying to encourage all of this migration because they see this as a potential voting bloc going forward. And we're now hearing things like this House Resolution 1, the H.R. 1, that, is going to prioritize ways to turn out what seem to be likely Democratic voting blocs. Is this thing going to get stopped? Because it's kind of terrifying to me.
H.R. 1, there's a couple of ways they can get the votes. Right now, it requires a 60-vote cloture, so it would take 60 votes to get there. Mm-hmm. But they're talking about changing the filibuster rule. They're talking about other shenanigans that they can do to get around that and still preserve the filibuster. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas a week ago, I was pretty confident because some of the Democrats said, look, we're not going to facilitate that type of shenanigan. Mm-hmm. Now some of them are, like Joe Manchin, it's like, because he's the most powerful man in Washington, D.C. right now. he's basically, because he's the swing vote on everything. He's
getting a lot of attention right now, Joe Manchin. It's like he's suddenly become the last girl in the bar at 3:08 in the morning. Nobody was interested, and now all of a sudden everybody's interested. Now it's like it's The Bachelor, the Bachelorette. Everybody gets a rose. It's crazy. But no, I agree with you, and that one scares me. But back to the bars. By the way, this whole idea that voter ID laws are racist, I think, is absurd. And I was saying the other day to your colleague Jim Jordan, if asking for ID was racist, if I had known that, I would have got into a lot more bars in college.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look. You have to, if you want to buy a gun, and if you want to get into bars, anything that requires some kind of identification in the rest of our lives and spheres, nobody says, "Oh, that's racist." Yeah, it's only when you want to vote that it's somehow racist, and there's almost always some kind of alternative way to get identification, even in these states that require voter ID. I mean, Arizona requires voter ID. 30-plus states require voter ID. And the Supreme Court said it's fine to require voter ID, especially since most states have provided some kind of accommodation if you can't readily get it. But here in this thing, you're going to do mail-in ballots to everybody, right? And they're going to look at, Jimmy, they're looking at these databases. They're going to go into the federal prisons database. They're going to go to every social welfare database. They're going to go into the driver's license database of every state, and they're going to send just blanket ballots to these people. Well, and then they mandate that the states say, okay, you can harvest. What that means is you got some bozo who's a paid political partisan who's going to go out, knock on the doors, and collect all these ballots. They'll take them in, and neither the paid partisan has to show ID, and you don't have to show ID for any of these ballots that somehow this guy has brought in. Wow. What could go wrong with that? I have no idea. It's perfect.
Dude, it is not good, man. You got some work to do in Washington, Biggs. Can Congress get its act together? I mean, I don't have faith, but could they get their act together? I mean, 2022 is coming. My hope is that the Democrats are just governing their way out of power because people are going to realize, things like points you've made about the rising gas costs and what looks like the onset of inflation and a lot of incompetence at the top of the food chain. I'm hoping you guys can turn this thing around, Biggs. Like, what? Tell me something. Are you optimistic? How are you feeling?
Well, the best thing for optimism right now is that the Senate, there's still people there that don't want to let some of this garbage through, even on the Democrat side. They don't want to take these tough votes, even though they're taking them. They're jumping off the plank. But in 2022, if we could have any semblance of a fair election, the Democrats are going to be wiped out because America's not going to put up with, taking my guns. My gas prices are up, my food prices are up, my clothing's up. Yeah. I still am wearing a mask 2 years from now. They still think they're talking about wearing masks 2 years from now. Yeah. My kid's a year and a half behind in school now because of these crazy policies.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think on some level they don't want kids going to school because the less history and the less math they study, the more likely they are to support these policies. You know, you got a much better chance of passing a socialist agenda if kids haven't taken history class. So maybe there's a motivation there. I don't know. But the gas point you make, too, that matters. Not even just for drivers, but you got to think of all the people on my staff that are sniffing gas after work.
Hey, and the fact that the host is doing that during work.
Oh, Biggs! We knew it was coming.
Really problematic.
We knew it. You know what? We knew a shot was coming. I'm glad I made fun of you out of the gate because I had to put you in your place a little bit. Because sometimes we get... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I come on the show, you treat me like a piñata right off the bat. What am I supposed to do? I'm a little subdued until we get toward the end. It's like, okay, I can get back in my game.
You really... I see what you did there, though. No, I did. And you saved it so you could get one in on me. Biggs, unbelievable. So I do love talking to you, though, for that reason. We're playing prison rules on this show. America needs more of this. You know that? Unfortunately, right now, people can't have just loose, easy conversations around politics. I feel like, honestly, we would solve more problems if we could, because you don't ever make progress when people are mad and they're yelling and screaming at each other. So maybe if we did a little more of this around the country, we could lighten things up. You think so, or do you think that would just get us both canceled and run out of society?
Right now we would be run out of society, ostracized. Here we come. We'd be banished to some little island in the Mediterranean, which doesn't sound bad right now. But
you're going to die laughing. Biggs, I'm actually getting the wrap-up signal right now because we're running past the commercial break. So I guess that answers the question. No, we can't have nice things. Listen, man, I love talking to you. Be well.